Hello, welcome to the course Toolkit for PE Teachers. My name is Azad. I am one of your co-faculties. I'll be with you throughout the session, throughout the course, and we'll do a lot of activities, theory as well as practical. Let's start. The first session is on planning for a physical education program in school. So let us understand what is planning. Planning can be defined as thinking in advance. What is to be done, when it is to be done, how is it to be done, and whom it should be done, by whom it should be done. Let's take an example that if you want to climb a Mount Everest, reach the summit, how do you start? So your goal is to climb the top of the mountain. Can you do it in one day? Basically, no. You need to do one step at a time. You need to climb one camp at a time. From base camp, you go to camp 1, camp 2, camp 3. Then you reach the summit. So planning helps you with all the details required in each of these climb, from one climb point to another point. Similarly, in physical education and sports as well, the same principles are applied. You have a goal to reach at the end of the year. And in order to reach that goal, you plan. You plan step by step for the entire year. There are two types of planning, basically. Long-term plan and a short-term plan. Here's an example. Long-term plan is to summit the mountain, reach the highest peak. Short-term plan is to climb from base camp to camp 1. So in physical education and sports also, when you're planning for the entire year, you go step by step. Your plan, the entire long-term plan, can be divided into short-term. Let's understand the steps required to plan for the entire year. Step 1. Define goals and objectives. Establish clear goals. Identify the overall aims of the PE program. If you are already in a school and the school's goal is already defined, you need to align it with the program that you are going to develop or that you are going to follow. If you are asked to define the goal, possibly you'll define the goals as promoting physical fitness in school or success in any competition. You want to win medals in one of the competitions or all the competitions that you participate. Or you just want to use physical education to foster social interaction. The goals can be different, but the planning remains the same to achieve these goals. You set specific objectives, right? It could be one step at a time. You want to develop motor skill first, then you want to promote fitness and health education or teach social skills. But the overall goal always remains the same, whichever you define or the school defines. Step 2 is assess student need and interest. It is very important that you should understand the interest level of your students. Conduct surveys, gather information on students' interest, fitness levels, and prior experience with physical activity. This will help in identifying activities, sports, defining intensity, level, frequency. How do you want to conduct your everyday physical education program or everyday lesson plan? It helps you define basis on the interest level of the students as well as the skill level or the fitness level of your students. So it is very important that you must assess your students first. The other very important part is that you should always understand the different types of students, and your program should always be inclusive in nature. There are students who are very good in one specific sport, and there are students who are not that good. There are students with different abilities. There are students with special abilities. So you must understand that your program should be inclusive, that regardless of their skill, regardless of their background, regardless of their physical abilities, they all should be part of the program. The third step is to develop or follow a curriculum framework. You can either develop a curriculum on your own, or you can adopt and you can follow a curriculum. For example, in EduSports, we have developed our own in-house curriculum that is executed in schools, all our partner schools all over the country. That is clearly mapped to the objective of the school. If the school wants to make everybody fit and healthy, there is a curriculum for that. If the student wants to excel in sport, there is a curriculum for that. The same curriculum, if you see, you can get it from other sources as well. Maybe CBSE has a curriculum. If your school is a CBSE board, you can follow CBSE curriculum. If your school is ICSE board, you can follow ICSE curriculum. The most important thing is to have a curriculum framework and follow that for the entire year. So identify the curriculum that you feel fits to your school, into your school, that actually helps you achieve the goal that you have defined for the school. The key components of a PE curriculum, should always remember that the curriculum articulates the goal of the PE program, such as promoting lifelong physical activity, health, well-being, depending on your goal, your school goal. So the curriculum must articulate, the curriculum must help you reach that goal. Right? Curriculum defines how PE contributes to students' holistic development, physical, mental, social, and emotional development. The curriculum must be aligned with national or state physical education standards like NCERT guidelines, national education policy guidelines. It should be aligned with that. Curriculum defines specific benchmarks, what students should know and achieve at each grade level. Curriculum ensures equality and accessibility by incorporating activities suitable to all students, including those with physical or learning disabilities. Like I mentioned, the curriculum must be inclusive in nature. You must remember that your curriculum ensure that the PE curriculum integrates physical education with health education, environmental education, and other subjects as well. The curriculum must have a variety of activities, include traditional Indian games like kabaddi, kho-kho, alongside global sports to foster cultural awareness and inclusivity. Choose a variety of activities that include individual games, team games, as well as recreational sports, the fitness activities and wellness education. The curriculum framework should be such that there is a clear skill progression, or design a progression of skill and activities that build on each throughout the school year. The curriculum framework must be age appropriate. The age appropriate is required to retain interest, to teach right skill at the right time, and to minimize injury. The curriculum framework should be integrated with health education, include lesson plans on nutrition, injury prevention, and mental well-being as a part of the curriculum. And yes, it should also teach life skill education, incorporate lessons or leadership, teamwork, and resilience through team sports and cooperative games. Very important that the curriculum must incorporate the national education policy, or should be aligned with the national curriculum framework. NEP 2020 emphasizes holistic development, skill enhancement, and the importance of physical education in promoting mental and physical health. NCF focuses on experiential learning, integration of various subjects, and the development of life skill through physical education. Let us understand the goals of NEP and NCP. One of the important goals is the holistic development of students. Promote physical, emotional, and social well-being through structured physical activities. Skill development, focus on developing motor skills, coordination, and teamwork to prepare students for various physical challenges. Lifelong fitness, instill an understanding of the importance of physical activity for lifelong health and well-being. So these are the goals defined by NEP and NCP that must be incorporated in your day-to-day lesson plans through a structured physical education curriculum. So here are the goals of National Curriculum Framework. For example, if you look at it, CG1 says children develop habits that keep them healthy and safe. There is an example below of the PE integration of Sports Village Edu Sports Program curriculum, wherein there is a lesson for safety and rules. The lesson name is Traffic Rules, where students learn boundaries, lessons, and directions. If you look at CG2, it says children develop sharpness and sensorial perceptions. The lesson plan of Edu Sports covers this. The lesson covers formation and boundaries, playing with props as per shapes, color, numbers, and letters. So, if you want to achieve a specific goal of NCF, it should be incorporated in a daily lesson plan. This is one of the examples of the curriculum of Sports Village Edu Sports Program, how it is integrated and it is aligned with the national curriculum framework. Step 4 is to plan the implementation for the year. So you have a defined goal now. You have assessed your students. You have selected the right curriculum framework as well. So now it's time to plan for the implementation of this curriculum for the entire year. How do you do that? So let's plan for the implementation for the entire year. How do you do that? You create an entire yearly calendar. By yearly calendar, I mean, so you have a lesson plan for the entire year, suppose. Okay. When do you want to pause and conduct assessment? Whatever they have learned so far, you assess. You select a month wherein you feel that students have learned enough. Now it's time to assess. So that month will be blocked for the assessment month. If you want students to showcase the talent, create an event month. Select a month where you want students to have a competition. So the entire year plan's implementation, you can do it this way. This is an example of the entire year. So if you see, all in whites are actually the lesson plans, ongoing lesson plans. And in December, you want to have the assessment. Similarly, in the month of October, you want to have the competitions. It could be intramural competitions, or it could be inter-school if you say in the month of January. So you define well in advance. You need to plan well in advance that when do you want to do all these events and assessments. This is an example of each of the lesson plans and when do you want to do it. So for example, your first 3 months, you may want to focus only on building fundamental movement skills, right? And this should be here, April, May, and June. Maybe from next month onwards, you want to focus on teamwork and teach fundamentals of different sports. So that needs to be called out in the calendar. So break down your entire year into quarterly calendar, then into monthly, and you can further break down into daily lesson plans as well. Step 5 is to organize resources and facilities. Again, going back, you have defined your goals, you have assessed the students' interest and their abilities, you have a curriculum in place, you have an implementation plan. Now you need to find resources to successfully implement that. And by resources, I mean your playing area, the facility available, and of course the coaches, fellow trainers, or even the help of the teachers that you may require during the entire year. In any school, you have two types of play area, permanent and temporary ones. Permanent are basically the football field or the basketball court, tennis court, or the athletic tracks. These are the permanent play area. In some of the schools, you don't get these kind of facilities, so you create your own temporary play area. The temporary play area can be created in an open play area which is free from any kind of hazards, which is safe to play, doesn't have any sharp objects. So these are the places where you can create a temporary play area and you can still execute the physical education program. So identify these two places where you would want to execute your program. So you have a play area, either a temporary or permanent. You need to have people, those will help implement this program. These are the trainers and the coaches. Most of the big schools will already have these trainers and coaches. In some of the small schools like preschool and all, you may take help from the existing school other subject teachers as well. So you can train them and you can help them execute the similar kind of program with your guidance. Let us understand schools where you don't have proper sports facility. How do you still execute a program in these kind of schools? So mostly in these kind of schools, you can use classroom, corridors and available space for conducting physical activities if they don't have a proper play area. This is basically for the preschool, I would say, wherein you can do some kind of indoor activities and still promote physical well-being. You can also use corridors provided you take enough safety measures, right? Or you can use the nearby local facilities like public ground, community centers, youth clubs. If the school is nearby, you can share the facility and let your students also use the same facility for the physical activity sessions. Schools wherever there is dance studio or aerobic studio, yoga studio and all, that also can be used as a potential place to do physical activities other than dance, yoga and aerobics. The most important thing is wherever you are doing the physical activity or executing the program, it should be safe and accessible for all students. It's very important that once you identify the place where it is to be executed, you must have proper props and equipment. By proper, I mean the props and equipment must be age appropriate. They should be right sizes, should be right dimensions, and it should be standard. Why it is important to have age appropriate props and equipment? Because age appropriate props and equipment help you teach the correct skill, develop the right fitness at the right age group, and it facilitates gameplay which is inclusive and free of injury. So it is very important that you identify these props and equipment as per the age group of the student for the entire year. Number 6 step in planning is plan, assessment and evaluation methods. Plan, assessment and evaluation methods. So assessment is the act of making a judgment about something. Assessment should answer 2 questions, very important questions, is what was learned and how well it was learned. Assessment plays an important role in physical education and sports. It not only helps you understand the capabilities of a student, it also helps you understand your own teaching methodologies, whether you have taught the right skill in the right way or not. If the students have developed, that means you have done the right job. If the students are still yet to develop their specific skill or fitness levels, then you may want to go back and check your own teaching methodologies as well. There are basically 2 types of assessment in physical education and sports. One is skill assessment and the other one is fitness assessment. And of course, there is a subjective assessment which you do through observation. It could be match play, it could be they are performing certain skills. So let us understand what skill assessment is. Skill assessment are based on neuromuscular system and determine how successful a person can perform a specific skill. This is basically the execution of the skill, the techniques used. For a younger children, we assess action, balance and coordination, which is locomotor skill, manipulative skill and non-manipulative skill or a stability skill. For higher graders, we assess sports skills. So this covers your skill assessment. And the other very important assessment is the health related fitness assessment, or simply call it fitness assessment. In this assessment, we try to understand the different components of fitness of a student. This is done through different tests like aerobic capacity test, anaerobic capacity test, strength test, flexibility, and body composition. These are the assessments to be done under the supervision of the teacher. Students themselves should never do health assessment. You should always take enough safety measures when you are conducting these assessments. Step 7 is plan events and competitions. So your yearly calendar should contain the event month and the competition months. So basically the events in the schools are inter-house, intra-house sports competitions, or one of the most important events is the sports day in the school. You should always plan for inter-house competitions, sports competitions, and sports days well in advance. You may want to have assessment, in fact, prior to doing the competitions, because assessment will help you identify the talent. It could be skill assessment that will help you identify the skillful students who in turn will perform these skills during the sports day. So your entire yearly plan should be mapped to the events and the competition. When do you want to do it? In addition, there are other external competitions and events as well, like CBSE level, cluster level, zonal level, and national level tournaments. You may want to prepare for this well in advance. So if you have planned for the event, you should always plan for the talent identification prior to these events. There are national level other talent identification events as well, like Khelo India School Games. These are the events where most of the students participate and they get a chance to showcase their talent and also get identified at a national level. Step 8 in planning is plan community engagement and involvement. Sports is not limited to school only. It is very important that the entire family and the community is also involved in the overall development of a child. And this can only happen when you involve them as well. Find opportunities to bring parents also to the ground. During sports days, of course, parents are there. You may want them to have some kind of competitions, the parent level competitions. Find opportunities like Grandparents' Day. During this kind of events, you can invite different grandparents, the older age population people, bring them, conduct some activities for them. They can do along with their own grandchildren, they can do along with other students, but find opportunities to create an event for them as well. Involve in and around community, have a community level sports day, have a community level sporting event, marathons, walkathons. These are some of the community level engagement that you can create in and around the school, so that there is a positive environment, so that everybody is working for the same goal of developing fitter and healthier student as well as a community. You play a very important role as a physical education teacher in the school to initiate these kind of activities. So while planning, keep in mind that you plan for such initiatives once or twice in a year. Step 9 is plan for professional development. No knowledge is permanent. You must upgrade your knowledge and upgrade your skill set. For this, it's very important that you must have a continuous professional development plan for you and also for your team members. It could be attending some kind of online sessions, it could be inviting some professionals, it could even be collaboration with your own school teachers, other subject teachers. For example, if you want to develop communication of some of your PE teachers, right, you may want to invite some of the English teachers and help them develop their communication skills. So in the entire year, you can do 1 or 2 such initiatives. You can do continuous development plan for this your own faculty members with the help of the other teachers. So it is very important that you either design or you seek help from others in developing a professional development plan. Step 10 is plan for feedback and quality monitoring mechanism. And by feedback, we mean feedback to the students, feedback to yourself as well, and feedback about the entire program. The best way to give feedback to students is through assessments. You conduct assessments and you generate a report card and give them feedback about where they lack, the areas of improvement, and the areas that they have excelled and how they should continue to excel in that area. Specific area could be your fitness level, specific area could be your skill level. Okay. Develop that feedback mechanism and develop a process wherein you can communicate with parents, where you can collaborate with teachers in order to give and take feedback. And feedback should not be once in a year when you get the assessment report only. Feedback can be continuous also. Use data and feedback to make necessary adjustments to activities, schedules, and resources. So your feedback session should not be once in a year. The feedback should be continuous, which will help you as well as your entire teaching methodology getting better year after year. With this, we come to the end of the session on planning physical education program for the year. In the next sessions, we will understand how this planning impacts the entire program. Thank you.